Welcome back to another episode of Two Parents in a Podcast. I posted that we were interviewing Emily Oster on my DMs, and they lit on fire. My best friend specifically, "Are you kidding me?" in all caps. And I said, no. That would be a weird joke.
I'm here.
I DM'd you.
Did you?
I think I went back and deleted it when we booked you. But I did. When we first started the second episode, and I was like, hi, would love to interview you. You ghosted me. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. You're busy.
I'm sorry.
Now we've got you.
And I'm here. I'm so excited.
We're so excited to talk to you. I don't think you need an introduction, but you are a best-selling, I'm not going to try to do it for her. That would have been great. I was going to try. Emily Oster is a best-selling author and economist, which I didn't know, known for bringing data-driven clarity to some of the most confusing parts of pregnancy and parenting. Now, this first part we're going to focus specifically on pregnancy.
Great.
Expecting Better. We read it together. If you haven't read the book, don't you even worry, because we're going to break it apart. We're going to ask her all about it. But when we found that I was pregnant, we were scared. We had all these questions. My friend Katie Beach sent me your book. She said, read it. You'll be good.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Thanks, Katie.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie. And now here we are with you. So we're excited to talk to you. I think you are a lot of people's true north when they're pregnant. I think there's a lot of don't eat sushi, don't do this, don't do that. And you're like, okay. And then our generation's really good at going, well, why?
Yeah.
Wait, but why would we not do that? And you really explained why you wouldn't or why you would do that.
I think, so I wrote Expecting Better when I got pregnant because I wanted the why. I remember coming to that first prenatal visit and getting this list of things not to do, like almost on my way out the door. They were like, oh, here's this list of what not to do. And I was like, wait. But like, which of these are important and why? And that was kind of my entry into like, oh, I'm not having the experience that I thought that I would in terms of getting answers that work with the questions I have. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where Expecting Better came from. And I have been surprised. I was surprised at the time. I continue to be surprised at the fact that wasn't out in the market, because it seems clear that women would like to be treated like adults.
Yeah, I think people just blindly follow things. But now I think you've really made a name for yourself. Like when the By Heart thing happened, we immediately went to your page and then watched what you said, and we were like, okay. And I think you are, like I said, the true north for questions that people have, which I think is awesome.
I find it really unique because I feel like a lot of people, us included, we take such a data-driven approach to so many facets of our lives. And so where your book really landed was, all right, if we take this approach in so many other places, then why wouldn't it be brought to pregnancy and parenting?
Totally. I think people come into this and you're like, I'm used to interacting with the rest of my life in this way that's based on evidence and data and facts. And I also want to take that to my pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did an economist become one of the most trusted voices in pregnancy and parenting? Was it that moment leaving the doctor where they gave you that to-do list, or was there a little more to it?
So there was a little more to it. So when you tell people you're an economist, they will sometimes ask you like, what should I invest in? And I'm not that kind of economist. My work is really about data. My expertise is in data and data analysis. And so when I got that list, and then in a few other moments of my pregnancy, I found myself, looking into the data like the way that I would with my job. And Expecting Better really came out of that experience, feeling like, okay, this is how I want to be treated when I'm pregnant. This is the information that I want. Maybe now, having gotten this in the service of my own pregnancy, maybe I should write about it, and maybe other people would like this. But I really, people say, well, why did you think that was a good idea? Like, I don't know. I just remember thinking, I want to write about this. I need to vomit out this information, and maybe people will be interested and maybe they won't. But it was Expecting Better was really a passion project.
Well, it caught fire.
It did well.
It did. I bet it did well. Okay, so do you ever get any Like, I think the most obvious off the top question is going to be, do you ever get, you're not a doctor.
No.
So you're an economist.
Yes.
Right? And do people ever comment or say that to you of like, why would we take medical advice from you?
Yes. Many people have said that.
Okay.
And, I think the answer is there are many things where, like, I am not a doctor and I'm not going to deliver your baby. And I would not trust an economist to deliver your baby. But there's a thing I have an expertise in, which is data and what does the data say, what's causal, what's not causal. That's actually something where the training that I have as an economist is far better suited than most of the training you get in medical school, which talks relatively little about data.
Okay.
So on these questions, like what does the data say on sushi, on coffee, on epidurals, on all of these things, that's really a data question for which the expertise I have is very well suited. And I think that was kind of that was my entry, and that's what I bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I will usually tell people like, ideally you would read this book so you are better prepared for conversations with your doctor. So you can go and you can be having the most productive conversations that are possible there.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I like it.
I feel like
the data.
I will say,
Makes
I
a lot
think
of sense.
over time, when I first came out with this book and it was like, here's this economist writing this book, there was a lot of like, what is happening? Mm-hmm. Over time, I've spent a lot more time with doctors. There are many more doctors who I think like this approach. And I think increasingly there are doctors who'll be like, look, you should read this person's book because like, I don't have time to deal with all the weird questions that, not because they're not a good doctor, but just doctor's time is limited. Like,
right.
Here is a book that has a bunch of answers for the questions that you have, and then we can talk about them after you've read it.
Yeah, and I think it's complex. Like, you're supposed to trust your OB. Okay, of course we do.
Yeah.
But your OB is not going to sit there with you and explain every single thing to you. So I do think that there's a lot of merit to that. And I've never had more questions in my life than when I was pregnant, especially the first time.
Totally. And there's no, in medical care, there often isn't time to deal with all those questions. Your
Totally.
doctor is trying to do the doctoring things, measure, make sure everything is looking good medically, listen to the heartbeat, all this stuff. They don't have time to deal with your there are many more questions that can be answered in those visits.
Totally. Okay, so let's go big picture.
Yeah.
First, and then we're going to zoom in. So big picture, what's the number one pregnancy rule, like no sushi, no deli meat, that doesn't make sense once you look at the research?
Bed rest. A good share of women are still put on bed rest for some substantial period of pregnancy, and there is basically no complication for which bed rest is a good idea. And a lot of reasons why you would not want to have it because it causes muscle atrophy and other things.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know people were still placed on bed rest.
Yes.
A lot of people are. I had a friend that was actually.
Yeah, so a lot of people are still placed on bed rest. It's gotten much less common over time because slowly this evidence has percolated into the world. But I think partly it feels like it makes sense. It's sort of like, well, if you just lay down. Lay down and then it nothing will happen. But that turns out that's not how it works.
Okay, so you're supposed to be up and moving.
So can you explain the mismatch between how a doctor goes and gives this suggestion when, on the other side of it, there's what sounds like an overwhelming amount of data that goes against what they're telling their patients to be doing?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of pieces here. So one is that for something like bed rest, the sort of most common thing this could be prescribed for was just like threatened preterm labor. We're worried you're going to go into labor preterm, so we're going to put people on bed rest. That used to be very, very common. And if you are a doctor who has been doing that for decades, most of the time, the people you put on bed rest don't have their babies prematurely. And that's not because you put them on bed rest. It's because they weren't going to have them prematurely anyway. And if you look in randomized trials, you can see that didn't make any difference. But the experience that you've had is I've put all these people on bed rest and they didn't have their babies prematurely. So my lived experience is kind of consistent with the idea that this works. And moving your brain to okay, but the randomized data says this, that's actually very hard for everybody. It's just that's not, our brains are really, really wired to learn from the experiences we've had. And so I think that's some of what's going on. And often people ask me, well, my doctor recommended something and I don't think the data shows it. And the way I will always tell people to respond to that is don't be like, you don't know what the data says. Just ask, why are you recommending that to me? what is it about my case that would suggest this is a good recommendation, even though it's not the average recommendation? Because that's like a much lower conflict way to ask that question.
Right.
But the root of the initial suggestion is coming from what they learned in medical school, which may or may not be outdated.
I think that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
So what
that is a general theme, applying that as a general theme to, I think, everything we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Correct. That was what I was going to ask next, is how much of the advice we hear is truly backed by research versus just old school caution. And so
some of it is backed by old data. Some of it is backed by data where it seemed like that was true, but then when you got better data, it wasn't true. And some of it is just backed by logic. And some of that might be right. Some of it might not be right. But again, I think for each of these recommendations, it's why, for me, the right approach would be to say, what does the data say? Why do we think that? Mm-hmm. And that lets us get to like which of these things really are things you should not do, and which of them maybe this just is a little bit made up, not based on very good data, logic based rather than fact based.
Okay. So now let's start with early pregnancy.
Okay.
Is there any truth to more nausea equals a healthier pregnancy, better hormones?
So it is true that on average, pregnancy nausea is associated with lower miscarriage rates.
Okay.
And that likely does relate to the hormonal aspects of a pregnancy that is sort of developing normally versus not. I will say this is not definitive. So many people who are not nauseous, the vast majority will go on to not miscarry, go on to have healthy pregnancies. And it is possible to be nauseous and also miscarry, but on average, nausea is associated with a lower risk of miscarriage.
I did look at a chart on that because I would go into my OB and I would say, I'm so nauseous. And she'd say, that's so awesome. And then, you'd leave and you'd be like, actually, is it actually a good thing? And so you do want to know. But I do think it's a bit fear mongering because I have so many friends. I looked at one in the face who was also pregnant and I was like, apparently it's a good thing that I don't feel good. And then I was like, oh my God, you feel great. And she's had 2 beautiful babies and there was no.
Yeah.
So sometimes there is no correlation, but you are saying, yes, it is.
There's a correlation, but I think there's an important place to say, like, yes, there's a correlation.
Okay.
But it's not like everyone who is nauseous goes on to a healthy pregnancy and everyone who is not doesn't. Like, the correlation is not that strong.
Okay. Are you looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine? Well, you guys, I used to put honey in a lot of my foods. Think breakfast, think teas, think my protein shakes, think salad dressings. But Manukora puts all other honey to shame. I'm telling you, I'm salivating just talking about this. Manukora honey is rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey you have truly ever tasted. It's ethically produced by Manukora's master beekeepers in the remote forests of New Zealand, and it contains powerful nutrients to support immunity and gut health. It's a game changer. All you need is 1 heaped teaspoon each morning to get the most out of the amazing bioactives in Manuka. Additional usage throughout the day is completely fine, especially helping to cut out those other sweeteners that you might be craving. Now it's easier than ever to try Manukora honey. Head to manukora.com/2parents to save up to 31% plus $25 worth of free gifts with the starter kit, which comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's manukora.com/2parents to save 31% plus $25 worth of free gifts. I love getting new outfits for Tate, and I love shopping for my friends who are having babies, and I always keep going back to Magnetic Me, and that is the best gift to give somebody because changing time, it's hard when you have a baby. And with Magnetic Me, you get your time back because changing time is easier. It is seriously a game changer, parents. If you haven't tried these clothes with the easy to use magnetic closures for your little one, now is the time. They have such great things to give for holiday. And moms, if you are breastfeeding, I'm telling you, get the pajamas. They are so soft and they are so easy to use. When you're getting up a million times in the middle of the night, magnets don't even compare to zippers and snaps. I'm telling you, these you pop one close and the rest follow suit, and it saves so much time. Trust me, you need Magnetic Me to make changing time easier for you and your baby. If you're a parent or shopping for a parent this holiday season, go to magneticme.com. Plus, they have the cutest gift box to wrap the gifts and have anything from baby up to toddler age. Plus, new customers will get 15% off. Don't wait. That's magneticme.com. Now we're going to go to food and drink.
Yeah.
Which I bet when you were writing the book was just... Because what I think you've done, there's this trend on social media of women giving, just having birthed their baby, and they'll have a sushi tray in front of them, or they'll have a ham sandwich, and they'll be like, waited 9 months for this. And then I'll always go to the comments, and it's just like, now people are saying like, you could have had
the sushi.
Could have just eaten the sandwich, and so I think that. But I think you started that wave because I don't think anybody ever challenged it beforehand. I'm so happy that I was pregnant after this book was written. Because I found a lot of it fascinating. Like, don't eat gas station sushi. Well, never eat it. Also,
right, don't
in
ever
general,
do that. That's not a good idea.
That's
don't
not a
get
good
your sushi
idea.
There.
So what's the real risk with deli meat and listeria today?
So deli turkey in particular is one place people have gotten listeria. And so relative to other foods, it has a slightly elevated risk, but listeria is very rare. And most of the large outbreaks of listeria are in places you can totally not predict. So there are sometimes outbreaks in ice cream or frozen vegetables or bean sprouts. It's a food issue that can come up in almost any food. And so the thing I'm sort of trying to help people understand in the book is, how much would my risk go down if I avoided deli meats? And the answer is the reduction in risk is really, really tiny because the baseline risk is really small. And the share of listeria cases that are about deli meat are also really small.
So if you really wanted to avoid listeria, you need to stop eating lettuce. You just would need to.
I think it's more than that. It's it would be impossible to predict.
Okay.
Because it isn't it isn't that there's a really long list of foods that, are, even if you avoided all of those, it would be like every food. Okay. Right? I mean, you could say basically I've exclusively eaten Doritos. Doritos cannot really get listeria. Okay. So if that was the only food you ate, like Doritos and saltines for your entire pregnancy, you wouldn't get listeria, but also it's not good for you. There's not enough fiber in that and other vitamins.
Fact.
And so, I think it's not really possible to avoid eating all of the possible foods that listeria could be in because it is all foods.
And so how many cases of listeria from deli meats have surfaced over, the last 5 years or last 10 years or whatever relevant time frame?
It's very hard to tell what most listeria cases come from, but if we look at things that are identified, it's maybe 1 or 2 a year.
Okay.
That can be definitively traced to. There are some
and that's
things
across all people, not 1 or 2 tied to pregnant
yes,
women,
right,
but
exactly.
1 or 2 listeria cases in the country a year tied to deli meat.
Okay, if you get listeria while you're pregnant, what's the problem?
That's bad. So listeria is very bad while you're pregnant because it is not sort of fully understood, but it is associated with a risk of miscarriage and stillbirth. It affects the placenta and is very dangerous. So you definitely don't want to get listeria. It's just that this particular avoidance is really not changing that impact very much.
Okay, if you take the deli meat and cook it more, is that good?
Yeah, that would avoid listeria, but it would also make it taste bad.
No, I do that though.
You microwave your deli meats?
I'll microwave it or I'll put it on the stove.
Okay,
because I warm it up.
So you really would have to if it in fact did have listeria, which again, very unlikely, warming it up in a panini is not going to do it for you. Oh. You could microwave it on a plate like it's bacon until it's kind of charred, but then it wouldn't be as good.
Okay, that's what I thought I was.
No, you're not.
I thought I was doing something there.
No, you were not doing.
I wasn't doing anything. Okay, can pregnant women eat sushi safely? And if so, what are 3 ways they could do that?
So the risks with sushi are that you could get foodborne illness. Any raw food has a slightly higher risk than a cooked food. And this is the piece that it's really important. it is not higher risk in pregnancy. So it's not, if you get a stomach flu during pregnancy, that is uncomfortable, just like it is uncomfortable to be sick at any time. But there is no specific pregnancy risk. And so if there is sushi that you are comfortable eating in your normal life, you should be comfortable eating it when you're pregnant. And what that means is, you should eat reputable sushi from like a place that is handling it well and is, not leaving it out for many days, because that's a bad thing to do. The one thing that is worth avoiding are very high mercury fish. So swordfish, tuna, shark. Most people don't eat shark sushi. I think it's very chewy. But the sort of very high mercury fish you want to avoid when you're pregnant.
And so you're saying
you can have sushi.
You can have sushi.
That's what I'm saying. You can have sushi.
How do you think we got? How do you think we got here on sushi? Because
where did we go wrong?
I feel like as the guy, I'm sitting here from the sidelines, but it feels like that's the number one thing I hear and see from pregnant people is no sushi.
So I think it is partly out of so many of these recommendations are in this abundance of caution space. Like, we want people to be more careful in general when they're pregnant, and you're more likely to get a stomach flu from sushi than from something else, just because of the way food works. And so let's, tell pregnant women not to have that, because we just want to be extra cautious. And I think many of these recommendations come sort of like that. Let's be extra cautious because just pregnancy is a vulnerable time. And once you start telling people those things, then it reinforces and it also becomes difficult to push back on, because when you are pregnant and someone says, don't do this, and then if you say like, well, but I want to do it, it's sort of like, well, don't you care about your baby?
Right.
You just care about yourself. You just love your sushi so much you can't sacrifice for your baby. And I think that attitude then is very hard to push back on.
And so what does the data specifically say on this though? Like, what is the data that is saying it's safe, or what is the data that someone would push back at you against and say like, hey, it's not safe? There's XYZ cases of
No, there's no XYZ cases. I think what you would say is in general, people are more likely to get sick from raw sushi than they are from cooked fish. That's just a true statement. That's a statement about people.
Because it's not cooked.
Because it's not cooked.
But aren't they more likely to get sick from chicken than sushi?
Undercooked chicken, or just chicken in general?
If you look at foodborne illness,
is it more
cases? Is there more foodborne illness cases from chicken or raw sushi?
Almost certainly numerically, yes. Although I don't know about as a share of the consumption of those two foods.
Okay. Because yes,
I've gotten food poisoning many times from chicken. Never.
I've never gotten sick from sushi, but I did get sick from some fish tacos recently.
Ugh.
It's not good.
Yeah. At this stage in my life, I'm really focusing on the quality of my sleep. And for me, that includes what I wear to bed. When you are pregnant, sleep time is sacred, you guys, and you want to be as comfy as possible. Skims has the best pajamas. I literally feel like I sleep better when I feel good in the fabrics that I'm wearing, and Skims is cute. And it is great to sleep in, you guys. And the best part about Skims is they have something for everybody in the family, even pets. Mom, dad, kids, pets, you name it, they've got it. Their holiday shop is so cute. And so go and get that matching set of holiday pajamas, because that is the best photo on the planet, you guys. So shop my favorite pajamas at skims.com. After you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you. Select podcast in the survey, and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gifts for everyone on your list, the Skims holiday shop is now open at skims.com. I mean, I think, okay. So what you're saying is, like, if you do eat sushi, let's say, and you do get sick from it in general, what's the harm to not in general. If you're pregnant, what's the harm to the baby? It's uncomfortable.
It's just uncomfortable for you. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's the important distinction in some of these things that I sort of try to make in the book, is a question of like, is this a recommendation that is about the health of the baby? Or is this a recommendation about the fact that you are, slightly more immune compromised as an adult, right? So you are, you're bigger, there's more stuff going on. It might be more uncomfortable to vomit. So you might want to be a little more cautious about your food choices during pregnancy just because it would be uncomfortable. But in terms of I want to be cautious because this might be damaging to the baby, that is not a consideration that you should have about sushi.
Okay. Wow. And I do think sushi is just the big one. Okay. Soft cheeses while pregnant and runny eggs while pregnant are also on the no list. And is that the same school of thought?
It's the same. So the soft cheeses is about listeria and the runny eggs is about the same thing as sushi. So the runny eggs have the kind of same sushi vibe. Unpasteurized soft cheese is actually more so than deli turkey associated with some listeria cases.
Okay. So again, with listeria, it's highly unlikely, but it is possible.
It is possible.
But it's also possible with lots of foods unless they're Doritos or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So just knowing that. Okay. I know your answer to this, but when you're pregnant, how much caffeine is actually safe?
More than 0. So we have quite strong evidence about no risk when we're talking about up to 2 cups of coffee a day. When you start talking about 5 to 8 cups of coffee a day, there are some associations with miscarriage early on in pregnancy. It's actually a little hard to know if that's the caffeine or if it's about nausea. So women who are more nauseous, we talked about this before, are slightly less likely to miscarry. They also drink less coffee because when you are nauseous, coffee makes you feel bad. And so someone who's drinking 8 cups of coffee a day is almost certainly not nauseous at all.
Right.
So it may be that we're picking up that a little bit in the miscarriage data. But certainly if you said, I want to be on the cautious end of this, still it would be fine to have a couple of cups of coffee every day.
What are the caffeine consumptions that we see in other countries amongst pregnant women?
It is much more common to have caffeine in Europe.
Like coffee through every meal.
People have more coffee in Europe. In fact, many of the good studies of coffee come from Sweden, where they really like coffee. That's when if you want a study that looks at people having up to 8 cups of coffee, you've got to go to Scandinavia.
They're doing it over there. And what's going on with their data?
I mean, the data in these European countries is very good, and generally birth outcomes are better in Europe. That's for a lot of reasons.
Okay. What about alcohol during pregnancy? Safe, not safe? How much is safe? What are your thoughts there?
So binge drinking, heavy drinking during pregnancy is very dangerous and should be avoided. When you talk about occasional alcohol consumption, no more than 1 drink at a time, a couple times a week. We don't see strong evidence of that being associated with bad outcomes. That drinking at that level is much more common in other places. And so, I talk a lot about this evidence in Expecting Better, and I think it's a really important place to really run through all of the many, many, many studies of this. But and having run through all of those, not everybody is going to choose to consume alcohol, but I think it is pretty clear that the evidence suggests the occasional consumption is not something to be concerned about.
It's funny. I can't even look at alcohol.
Right.
He had a drink last night, and I was like, let me just smell it. And then I was like, why did I even smell it? But for the people that are like, okay, a glass of wine sounds good. They can have a glass of wine.
Yes.
And then what did you look at data-wise there? Does it affect the baby at all?
So you look at, there's a lot of outcomes you could look at, and there are, studies there are many studies in Europe where there's a wide variety of sort of drinking behaviors, and then we can look at outcomes in the sort of short term and the long term. So both birth outcomes like prematurity and all that stuff, and then things like neurodevelopment later, test scores, all that kind of stuff. And that's the sort of set of outcomes people are looking at.
And you looked at smoking. This isn't on here, but one cigarette directly would affect the baby.
So smoking behavior. So first of all, very few people have 1 cigarette. So
Okay.
when people smoke, they tend to smoke significant amounts. And smoking as a general behavior is associated with substantial reductions in birth weight. And we have pretty good evidence of that. So I think if you are smoking, it is best to try to quit or cut down during pregnancy.
Yeah.
to the extent you can.
I don't even think we thought to ask that because we just like felt so obvious.
Smoking behavior has gone down a lot over time in the US. This is not very common anymore. I get actually much more questions about smoking marijuana.
And
also not good.
Also, is it the same as
yes,
smoking cigarettes?
Smoking marijuana has some of the same effects as smoking cigarettes,
which are reduced birth weight.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. What about gummies? What about weed gummies?
We don't really know that much about that.
Okay.
Which is a kind of interesting, like there's I think a sort of abundance of caution approach here because we are still learning more. Until relatively recently, this was very hard to learn about because it was illegal, obviously. And so then the set of people who are using gummies and admitting it is very different than others. Now that is more legal, there are many more people who are using gummies more frequently. My guess is the data will improve, but we need a little time.
I would just think anything that altered any behavior would be bad. I would just think that would just be my assumption, but I don't know.
I think it's more complicated than that.
I would imagine it's more. I would imagine all of it is telling me it's far more complicated than that. Okay, now I have to ask this since I'm off the thing here. Ozempic while pregnant. Somebody DM'd me that, and I was like, I don't know.
Generally, when you are pregnant, you are trying to gain weight, not lose weight, and so we generally know people are not on Ozempic during pregnancy. Many people have gotten pregnant accidentally.
I see Ozempic babies as a trend.
GLP-1s, and that I think there's no reason to be worried. If you were on a GLP-1 and you got pregnant, there is no reason to worry about the baby, but people will generally go off because you want to make sure you're getting enough nutrients for the baby.
Yeah. I see people use it for anxiety sometimes.
Yeah, like smaller doses. Yeah, my guess is we will learn more about that over time.
Yeah, that will be fascinating.
Yes.
And you will look into that?
Anytime there is a new study about GLP-1s associated with anything around fertility or I promise I will write about it because it is the number one question people have.
I bet.
Other than Botox.
Oh my God. Duh. Okay, can you get Botox while you're pregnant?
You could. It's not something that you would want to worry about, but also no one will do it for you.
Yeah.
If you tell them you're pregnant, they're not going to Botox you.
But if somebody would do it for you,
it would be not a problem. In fact, we have some cases in which people literally have botulism poisoning, which to be clear is not like Botox, a very small amount relative to actual consumed botulism poisoning, and still everything was fine.
Interesting. Interesting. If you are a last minute shopper, you know the feeling. The shelves are empty. The ideas are running low. Enter Aura Frames. This is the solution to giving a gift that feels so personal, you guys. Here's the best part about it. Okay. Well, first of all, it's the digital picture frame that you set on the counter that shuffles through photos. It's perfect to give grandparents or somebody that doesn't live near you. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. And here's the thing. You can upload unlimited photos and videos, and you can preload it before it ships. So when the gift gets there and they open up the frame and they plug it in, they can already see the photos. You can personalize your gift, and you can share photos and videos effortlessly straight from your phone all year long, you guys. I truly love this gift. I think it is so special. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code 2parents at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code 2parents. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay.
Retinol while pregnant.
So high dose, so retinol is related. Okay, so there's an oral medication like Accutane, which is very dangerous during pregnancy.
Okay, taking it, yes.
Yes. Retinol is suggested to avoid retinol for the same reason. It's the same like active ingredient. The amount that you absorb through your skin is obviously far, 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 far less. And so in general, we haven't seen bad outcomes there, but because of the worry about consumption, once you know you're pregnant, stop using that.
Really? Okay, so retinol. So don't use retinol, but you could hypothetically get Botox, huh? This is what I was talking to your mom about. Okay, that's fascinating. So that was very fun for me, by the way, because those are all the common questions that I have. But so this was a lot about what you can do, turned out. What can you not do while you're pregnant?
So you should not smoke while you are pregnant. You should probably avoid marijuana. You should avoid heavy drinking. And you want to avoid contact sports, skiing, roller coasters, both of which can basically cause placental issues if you fall. So things that make you fall down, potentially, those are the kinds of things you want to avoid.
Riding a horse.
No, riding a horse would be okay, but not in a like way that you could fall off it.
Okay, so
It
falling.
depends. Falling, don't fall.
But sleeping on your stomach.
Sleeping on your stomach is so eventually you will not be able to sleep on your stomach.
Right.
A lot of people are told you can only sleep on your back. That turns out, when we got better data on that, actually is okay. If you're comfortable with it, it is okay to sleep on your back.
And it's okay to sleep on your stomach until you're uncomfortable?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So don't fall, don't smoke, don't do marijuana, and don't heavy drink.
Don't heavy drink.
Okay. And other than that, use your brain.
Yeah.
Think about listeria and where else it could be.
Yeah.
Or I guess inform yourself.
Or just inform yourself, pay attention, but that's it.
Okay. Okay. All right. It's just like I just wanted to ask so many of those questions for so long. Now, testing.
Okay.
How accurate is the NIPT really, and what should parents understand about false positives?
This is such a great question because it's so much about statistics, but I'll try to be.
You can be statistic heavy if you'd like.
So non-invasive prenatal testing, where you have a blood test and it tells you something about the baby's chromosomes, is very accurate.
Okay.
If you get a negative test result. If you get if they say everything is great, that is very, very highly predictive. So this detects a very large share of chromosomal problems, which is awesome. Some of this testing, though, has a pretty high false positive rate, meaning a large share of the time when people are told there might be something wrong, actually there is not. And that's really by design. So when you want the test to detect a lot of true cases, you have to make it sensitive enough that it is allowing in some false positive cases. And because many of these conditions are very rare, those false positive cases kind of almost dominate even the people who are getting a positive test result.
Okay.
So the positive test is picking up the small number of people who really have a problem, and then just a lot of people where the test just kind of picked up a false positive. And so I guess what I would tell people is when you get this test result, if they say everything is great, that's great. You're cool. And if they say there might be an issue, just remind yourself there's still, in many of these things, greater than a 95% chance that there's no issue.
Greater than a 95%
Yeah, because
chance.
these things are really rare, and there's a lot of false positives.
And can you not just rerun the test?
You could rerun the test. Depending a little bit on the reason for the false positive, it might give it you one again. Usually after a positive test, people want more concrete resolution, and so they will move to something where they can really get the answer, either an amniocentesis or a CBS test, depending on where you are in pregnancy.
Okay, so in your opinion, when it comes to tests and OB visits, which tests do you think actually matter, and which ones cause unnecessary fear?
I think for almost I think information is great. Mm-hmm. I think the more information is better, as long as we know what it's going to tell us.
Okay.
So I believe these non-invasive prenatal tests are fantastic. I mean, that's an incredible innovation in our ability to detect things, but you have to understand what you are getting out of it, that you're going to get this test. There's a chance it will be positive. Even if it's positive, probably the follow-up will show that everything is fine. And if you have that frame, then you can get the information that you need. And actually, if there is something wrong, you can learn that. But where we fall apart is when we tell people, you got a positive test result, and then they freak out.
Right.
That's the thing we don't want to have happen.
Okay.
So you just want to understand coming into the test what it's going to tell you.
So you're good with tests?
I like tests.
Okay. Or what about going through the airport, going through the security thing? That's
fine.
That's fine. Okay.
That's fine.
She loves data. Of course she loves tests.
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
I figured.
Please.
I didn't know if there was a test, though, that from your data you saw was maybe too invasive or not good.
No, I think most of these tests are, that's good. That's a good question. I think in general, things like an amniocentesis, all this are very low risk.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. All right. Labor and delivery.
Yeah.
Okay. What does the data actually say about elective inductions at 39 weeks?
So before maybe 10 years ago, people had this strong instinct that if you do an induction, it's going to lead to a C-section. There's like going to be a higher risk of a C-section if you do an induction. Mm-hmm. There was a very large randomized trial in which they gave some people induction and some people they didn't. And it turned out that the rates of C-section were the same. So in that trial, what they saw was not what they expected. They saw actually it didn't seem like elective induction led to C-section.
Okay.
Over time, that meant that a lot of doctors are doing many more elective inductions. So I think there was some sense in which, well, maybe you don't want to do that because of the C-section risk. Well, now if we don't think that's a risk, let's do more inductions. Not everybody wants an induction, so I think it's worth thinking about the kind of a different birth experience. And I will say some people think that trial was overinterpreted and that in real life, inductions do lead to more C-sections. This is a sort of complicated space, but what I would tell people is you want to think a little bit about what's the experience you want. For some people, they're like, this is my second kid. I've arranged childcare. Like, I want to know when this is going to happen. I want to be able to plan it now. Like, let's, get it together.
Right.
And for other people, like I wanted to go into labor at home.
Yeah.
I wanted to be at home that's not really consistent with an induction.
Okay.
So thinking a little bit about what is the experience you want should be an important part of that decision.
So the experience I want is to know, I'm an elective inductioner. That's my thing. When I was pregnant with my first, I was like, that's my vibe. I need to know when I'm going to get this baby out of me. And it took a lot. People said, okay, it's going to take a lot longer. It could be a lot more painful. And it was. It took a long time and it was very painful.
You got to be patient.
Yeah, but
very
I was
important
okay
to be
with
patient.
that.
Yeah.
So other than understanding that and saying, I am okay with that, do you see any risk with having an elective induction?
No. I think it really is but I think what you say is exactly right. Like, you want to think about, okay, it's going to take a long time. Mm-hmm. I want my doctor to be willing to be patient. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to expect that's what it is. And you're gonna have an epidural, because if you have an elective, did you have an epidural?
Yes, two.
Right.
Well, the first one didn't work, and it was awful.
It is very unusual to have an elective induction and not end up with an epidural. The contractions that people have on Pitocin are much stronger. If you are someone like when I was coming into my first, I wanted to have no epidural. I wanted to go into labor at home, and that's just like a different.
That's a different vibe.
That's
like
not
a different vibe.
It's like a different vibe. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. That's a whole vibe.
It's a vibe.
Good for you. Did it hurt?
Yes.
Really bad.
Really bad.
Did you have the baby at home?
No, I did not. I almost had the second at home by accident. We got to the hospital 15 minutes before he was born. It was but the first one took a long time. But no, we didn't have.
So you stayed at home. You were having contractions, and then you said, "Okay, we'll go to the hospital."
Yes.
Did you get an epidural then?
No.
Good for you. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you get an epidural with the second? No, because you got there.
No.
Yeah.
The second one, they're just pops right out. That's
so
totally
you're no
different.
epidural person.
Yeah.
And is there a reason for that?
Not really. More just I wanted to see what it would be like, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Is that research for you?
Yeah. It's like the same reason I like to run marathon. It's like I don't know. I'm just interested in
what it feels like.
What it feels like.
I think it's good to know.
Yeah.
If you want to know.
Yeah, but you might not want to know.
You guys, the holidays are chaotic. You're on the go. You've got multiple holiday parties in one day. You've got a house full of guests. You've got unexpected delays while traveling. And guess what? You're hungry. You got to feed yourself. Enter Kachava. They are the best protein powder. I'm telling you, my mouth is watering thinking about it. They've got vanilla. They've got a chai flavor. I make them and I add frozen fruit to these smoothies, and they are so good, and they're protein packed, you guys. I love their new limited edition chocolate mint flavor, and they have other flavors too: chocolate, vanilla, chai, matcha, coconut acai, and strawberry. And all the nutrition you need to fuel your adventures, you guys. They also, here's the best part about it, okay? Energy. They're supportive of all-day energy with 5 key vitamins and minerals. Digestion, they keep things regular with fibers, probiotics, and enzymes. And for strength, they fuel and replenish your muscles with protein and electrolytes. That's why I like to have it after I work out in the morning. Metabolism, they nurture a healthy metabolism with B vitamins, minerals, and fiber. And here's the best part: 25 grams of 100% plant-based protein. No artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. So this is truly good, clean fuel for you. Calm the holiday chaos and go to kachava.com and use code 2parents for 15% off your next order. That's Kachava, KACHAVA.com, promo code 2parents for 15% off. No.
I will say, like, one of my closest friends was due with her first kid was like, it's like 3 months after mine. And when she gave birth, she had the epidural. The next day she called me. She was like, "You are the stupidest person." It was like, the epidural is amazing and you're a dummy.
It's amazing.
Like, okay.
Well, they always say, like, my favorite thing is his mom always says it, like, there's not, I wish there was somewhere like a plaque on the wall that said I didn't get an epidural,
Right.
like a little more recognition, because it's a lot harder.
Right. This is not how I feel. I don't know. I think it's just like,
Good for you, though.
it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I would think, if you're a marathon runner, like, you can endure pain. Good for you.
It's like a marathon, except in a marathon you could stop.
Yeah, with this, you couldn't.
You can't
I
stop.
asked if I could stop. I said, can we just pause?
Can we just like pause it
for a moment?
Just
My
leave
doctor
it.
was
Leave
like,
it in there.
Nope,
Just
sure
stay in
can't.
there.
Yeah, I was like, this is painful. But the next day, I just told one of my friends this, who's about to give birth next week. I said, hey, listen, it was awful. The next day, I said, I'll do it again.
Yeah, totally.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is, I guess, a bit on this. Do epidurals affect labor progression?
They slightly lengthen the second stage, which is the pushing stage, by a sort of small number of minutes on average.
Okay, minutes is.
Yeah.
If you're doing a cost-benefit analysis of pain versus minutes,
Most people would choose the epidural.
I would
There's
think.
a reason most people have the epidural.
What do people actually need to know about the vitamin K shot and the newborn eye ointment?
So vitamin K shot is very important
Okay.
because it lowers the risk of hemorrhage. So there is a risk of sort of hemorrhage in baby when they are a few weeks old that is dramatically lowered by the vitamin K shot. So that is a really, really good idea.
Okay.
The eye ointment is a precautionary metric that we do because of the risk because if mom is carrying sexually transmitted infection, that can be a problem for the baby. If you know that you do not have a sexually transmitted infection, that is something you can probably skip. So if you were sure you did not have gonorrhea or chlamydia, it is reasonable to ask whether you could skip that, but I would not skip the vitamin K shot.
Okay, so give the vitamin K shot. Okay, that's good to know. You posted an Insta story on this, which was really funny, and we have mine in the freezer
Oh dear
still.
God, seriously?
But we wanted to plant a tree with it.
Okay.
Well, we didn't know.
I wasn't going to eat it.
We were like told to keep it. And
Hold
we
on,
didn't know why
by
we were
who?
I don't know.
Just like people,
The same
so
people
we
that
kept
said
it.
don't eat sushi.
Yeah. So we like have it, and now it's like a
Sitting.
bit, right? Because we're just like, well, whatever, we have it. Like maybe one day we'll fertilize a tree with it, which would be funny. We're
it's
not
also
keeping the
funny.
second one. We're gonna
Okay.
say throw it out.
Yeah. Now your second kid's gonna be like, you didn't keep my placenta.
Yeah, we
you
could-
only kept the older one's placenta. Oh, that's his special placenta tree.
Yeah, well,
Like,
that's
you better
true.
keep the
It
second
has
one.
a plaque.
Whenever
My
anyone,
main advice about having two children is make sure you do everything the same. I think you got to get the second
All
placenta.
right, perfect. We'll keep the placenta in the freezer for
And
the
we'll
first
label
year.
them.
Label them.
We'll label them, and maybe we'll just keep them
You
forever.
can see whose tree is better, and that will be a great comparison of your children.
who's stronger.
Who's stronger?
We have people over a lot, and it's like always a really funny thing when people go into the freezer, and for the past like 3 or 4 months, it's been on the top layer of
Nice.
the freezer beside the ice.
I think it's like a steak.
So gross.
It's so gross. It's disgusting. We just didn't know. We were like we didn't know how to change a diaper. So here's the thing. Is there any benefit to eating your placenta?
No, there is not any benefit to eating your placenta that we are aware of, and it isn't really like a placenta is it's like a body organ.
Blah.
You know, it's an organ. It's actually placenta is incredibly cool. It's the only organ that is like you totally create it from scratch when you get pregnant. It is the only organ that is shared between two people, so it's like half your baby and half you, and it's like so amazing. It's like such an amazing thing, but it's not a food. Okay, it's not a food, so don't eat it.
I'm actually so happy we have ours now. I understand it's half my baby, half me.
Yeah, it's like incredibly. The placenta is so cool
Okay.
and you can use it for the tree. I love the tree.
The tree's cool.
The tree is a cool idea.
We
Cool
were like,
idea.
what's
Do the
another
tree.
way we can use it? And somebody said you can fertilize a tree with it. That's
Yeah.
actually like a cool thing.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, but the eating it,
No,
I
don't eat it. It could be like you want to be very careful if you were to decide to eat it, which would have no benefit. You want to be very careful because this is a medical product, not like just it's not like a steak.
Right.
Even though apparently
It does
you're
look like
storing
one.
it.
It does
You're
look
storing
like
it in that way.
And people capsulize it, like they make pills.
Right. Yes. Again, no.
What is the benefit they think they're getting?
They think that it improves, like lowers the risk of postpartum depression and improves other aspects of recovery. But there's no evidence for that.
Okay, there's no evidence for that. Wow, there's no evidence for that.
No.
We're gonna do breastfeeding next. Okay, so these are rapid fire for the end of the pregnancy
Okay.
one.
I'm going to be fast.
Okay, can pregnant women drink Diet Coke?
Yes. I'm just writing about that on Monday. Yes, you can have your Diet Coke.
Is there a limit to how many you can have? Why can you have it?
You can have it. The thing people worry about is caffeine. It only has a very small amount of caffeine relative to coffee, and they worry about artificial sweeteners, which again, not a concern. So
It is my like one joy.
do you love it? I know.
I
This is like
love
this is
it.
like such a like the Gen Z, like, you know, people call it a fridge cigarette.
Yes, I've been seeing that. We talked about that. Listen, you don't like.
I mean, I like Diet Coke. Don't. Yeah,
Okay, you do. You drink it?
Yeah.
I didn't like it not pregnant. Now I'm like one a day if I can.
It's more than one a day.
Okay, great. Because I have like I love to push a limit on that. Is spicy food safe?
Yes.
Can stress cause miscarriage?
There's not much of that in the data. I mean, if you are a very, very stressful, like if there's a famine, like a sort of lack of food stress can be associated with miscarriage. We're talking about like sort of personal stress. No.
Do you know a number one cause of miscarriage?
Number one cause of miscarriage, which was responsible for about 90% of miscarriages in the first trimester, is chromosomal abnormalities.
Okay, so
Things you can't do anything about,
things out of your control.
things totally out of your control.
Okay. Is flying late in pregnancy safe?
Flying late in pregnancy is safe, but number one, you want to be walking around some because your risk of blood clots does go up some, and you want to be like wearing compression socks and moving a bit. And if you're getting very late in pregnancy, you run the risk that you will end up in a place that is not your home environment to give birth, and that is not something you probably want to be doing.
No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That to me was the main reason.
Yeah,
Of like,
that's
I don't
the
want to
main
get
reason.
stuck.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck.
Okay, last one. Do prenatal vitamins truly matter?
You definitely, there are a small number of components that matter. You want to have some folic acid. You probably want some iron because a lot of pregnant people are anemic. You probably want some DHA, and that's basically it. So you don't need to be taking really fancy vitamins. It doesn't have to have a lot of random stuff in it, but folic acid is really important.
Okay, there it is. Do you have any? Oh, okay. This is a good final one for this. What pregnancy myth do you wish would disappear forever?
Oof. I wish that when people had a pregnancy loss, they didn't think it was their fault.
It's a really good answer.
It almost never, ever is.
And you can't control it.
And you can't control it almost ever.
Wow. That's a great answer. Good one. Okay.
All right.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to ask you about pregnancy, but I think, is there anything else you want to say that you think we missed?
I think we hit all of the pregnancies.
Okay. So that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a part 2 where we're going to ask about, like, what's the word? The first year of birth? For when you
First year of parenting.
Yeah, first year of parenting. I don't know why it's so hard for me. Okay.
And beyond a little bit.
And beyond. Plug your socials.
You can find me on Instagram at Prof. Emily Oster.
And they can buy your book.
And you can buy my book, and you can visit the website parentdata.org, which has like a little chatbot you can ask questions to. And
Who
we have a
answers
ton
that?
of content. The chatbot. It's all trained on the Emily content.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Two Parents and a Podcast powered by Just Media House. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Stay connected on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook at Two Parents and a Pod. Welcome to our home. Sorry it's so messy. New episodes Mondays and Thursdays.